Welcome back to another creepy episode of CrimeSceneX. In today's video, we will cover 3 terrifying and true food delivery horror stories. If you enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe for daily uploads. Sit back and enjoy today's video. I'd always prided myself on being cautious, especially when it came to my job as a food delivery driver. Late-night orders could be sketchy, so when I saw a delivery request to a less than reputable neighborhood with a payout double the standard rate, I hesitated. But my bills were piling up and tuition wasn't going to pay itself. So I picked up the order, a large pizza, 2 orders of fries, and a couple of milkshakes, and drove to the address. The delivery note gave me a pause. "Please bring the food inside. Money is on the kitchen table." It was against company policy to enter a customer's home, but people were known to leave money out like that. I parked a few blocks away, walking to the old building under the dim glow of flickering streetlights. The apartment door was slightly ajar when I reached the 4th floor, and a soft light spilled into the hallway. "Hello? Your delivery's here," I called out cautiously. "Come in," a voice beckoned. Ignoring the red flags and my own better judgment, I walked into the apartment, balancing the bags carefully. I spotted the money on the kitchen table, even with a generous tip. Just as I was considering how to make a swift exit, the door slammed shut. I turned around. A man was standing there, blocking the door. His eyes were icy, his expression blank. "You should never have come in," he said, lunging at me. Instinct kicked in. I dodged him, dropping the bags and sending fries and pizza tumbling onto the floor. My hand grasped a milkshake, and I hurled it at his face. It hit its mark, momentarily blinding him. Not waiting to see his next move, I sprinted to a window, unlatched it, and scrambled out onto the fire escape. I heard him cursing and struggling with the window latch as I made my descent. I hit the ground running and didn't stop until I reached my car, locked the doors, and sped away, my heart pounding in my chest. I pulled over only when I felt I was a safe distance away and immediately called the police. They arrived at the apartment but found it empty. I quit my job the very next day, still shaken by the ordeal. A week later, I got a call from the detective handling the case. They had traced the owners of the apartment. As it turned out, they were out of town, completely unaware that their home had been used in what could have been a violent crime. Whoever that man was, he didn't live there. He had broken in and used their apartment as a trap. The revelation was chilling. I had become a target in someone's twisted game, lured into a trap set in someone else's home. And while the police are still investigating, the man remains at large. That experience served as a sobering reminder that monsters don't just exist in horror stories or movies. They can be real people, walking among us, capable of unthinkable actions. I've always been a night owl, so taking the late-night shift for food delivery suited me just fine. The town was small enough that I usually knew the addresses by heart, which made my job easier. But one night, an unfamiliar address popped up on the app. It was a remote cabin deep in the woods, with the delivery time set for exactly midnight. The order was straightforward, steak and fries, but the instructions caught my attention. "Leave the food at the doorstep. Do not knock or ring. Do not make any noise." Something about it felt off, but my curiosity got the better of me. With the food safely packed in the back seat, I headed out into the dark, winding road that led to the woods. My car's headlights pierced through the dense darkness, revealing nothing but more darkness. The deeper I drove into the woods, the more uncomfortable I felt. Finally, I arrived at the cabin. It was eerily quiet, and the thick canopy of trees seemed to swallow all sound. Following the instructions, I carefully placed the food on the doorstep and began to retreat back to my car. That's when I heard it, the sound of something heavy being dragged across wood. I froze, my eyes darting towards the source of the sound. What I saw through the cabin's window made my blood run cold. A figure inside, shrouded in darkness, was pulling something, or someone, across the floor. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized whatever was being dragged seemed to be limp and lifeless. I scrambled back to my car, fumbling with my keys. Once inside, I locked the doors and sped away as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I had reached the safety of the town limits. My hands were trembling as I grabbed my phone to call the police. After what seemed like an agonizing eternity, they arrived at the cabin to find it empty. There were traces of blood on the floor, but no signs of a struggle or forced entry. Even more disturbing, they later told me that the cabin had been abandoned for years and the owner had died long ago. They had no records of anyone currently residing there or even visiting recently. The phone number used for the delivery order was untraceable, a burner phone, they said. After that night, I couldn't bring myself to continue with my food delivery job. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd interrupted something terrible, something that went far beyond the realms of my understanding. Weeks later, a police officer updated me on their investigation. The most unnerving revelation was that, according to their records, the people who once lived at that cabin had been a normal, middle-aged couple who often left town for work. They had no idea who had been in their cabin that night or what had happened there. Even now, the questions haunt me. Who was that person, and what were they doing in an abandoned cabin in the middle of the night? Why did they order food to such a remote location? And most disturbingly, what would have happened if I had knocked or made a noise, as we usually do during food deliveries? That's a question I hope to never find the answer to. I've been a food delivery driver for a few years, but that night was different. Way different. My phone buzzed around 11 p.m., signaling a new delivery request. The order was for a couple of burgers and fries from a popular late-night joint, destined for an industrial area on the outskirts of town. The special instructions said, "Deliver to Warehouse 13, Main St. Please bring inside and leave on the main table." Odd, I thought. Warehouses weren't exactly typical food delivery destinations. Still, I shrugged it off, assuming it was a late-night crew putting in some overtime. The GPS guided me through poorly lit streets, finally stopping at a gigantic warehouse. I punched in the gate code from the app, and it opened slowly, granting me access to the desolate property. The inside of the warehouse was just as dark, except for a single light illuminating a table in the middle of the vast space. I placed the food there, as instructed. Just as I snapped the confirmation photo for the app, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of the main door creaking shut. Then the light in the center cut out, and I was in total darkness. My heart leaped into my throat. I fumbled for my phone to call for help, but a quick glance confirmed my worst fear. No cell reception. I was trapped. My mind raced with terrifying possibilities. Was there someone else in the dark with me? A robber? A maniac? I held my breath, listening for footsteps, a voice, or any sign of another presence. But nothing came, only the distant echo of dripping water. After what felt like an eternity, it dawned on me. This had to be a prank. A really sick, messed up prank. But by whom? And why? Frustrated and a little relieved, I remembered the flashlight feature on my phone. Although its battery was low, it was strong enough to cut through the pitch black. Scanning the room, my light caught something upstairs. A small window that seemed just big enough to crawl through. Summoning all the courage and adrenaline I had left, I navigated through the labyrinth of crates and machinery towards a set of stairs. My flashlight flickered as I reached the upper level, making me even more anxious. I reached the window, pried it open, and with great difficulty, managed to crawl through, dropping a good 6 feet to the ground below. I've never been so grateful to feel concrete under my feet. After a few deep breaths, I walked around to the front of the warehouse, got in my car, and drove straight home. I reported the incident to both the police and the food delivery service, but they couldn't find any evidence of who had set up this elaborate and twisted joke. The police did inform me later that the warehouse was under renovation and that the owners had been out of town for weeks, so who pulled that stunt remains a mystery to this day. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, comment what you thought, and subscribe for daily uploads.